Hey friends out there in box camera land, Rob here. It's time for another backer update. Today we're talking about NuBox, and man, I think this is more of story time. I sat down just a moment and wrote you guys a nice update email to go onto the Kickstarter page so we see what's going on. And I realized that, man, there's been a lot going on since the last time we talked, and a lot of that has to do with things that just are mundane stuff. Actually, I wouldn't call it mundane. It's really crazy and exciting and humbling things that happen when you start trying to design and mass produce a product. And so when I wrote that update, I have not posted it yet. I'm recording this afterwards. I thought to myself, said, yeah, it really was a story time. So let's kind of go over that so you can see what it was like and hear it from my voice. There are 4 real big things, and I think I'm going to hit them all here. I might forget some of them. But in the fact of it being kind of story time, it's really kind of crazy. First of all, I had some problems with some lenses that came through. Now, this was about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, and I got a shipment of lenses in, and they weren't up to snuff, man. They just couldn't do it for me. And the reasons probably because I had a working lens. I sent it to the company overseas that said that they could prototype it from me from the lens I wanted to use that I already knew would work, and make me a lower cost lens. And that was the model that I had used when I put NuBox together to sell it. And the problem was that they couldn't make that lens at the same quality at a lower cost. But for me, I still ended up having to eat that price because they did what they said they were going to do, dealing with a foreign company. There's not any of these returns, and lenses are custom optics. That was an expensive mistake. That happened, you know. I look back on that, and this is a time where it probably would have been better just to order the original in the first place. But the original is almost 3 times as much in the lens. And that was that took some thought there. You know, during that time, while I was poisoning myself the second time with the resin that you see over there, that stuff's icky, man. It really messes you up if you smell it for too long. And yeah, that was funny too. But I had thought that I would be able to possibly get a resin lens for the viewfinders, right? Not for the picture-taking lens, but maybe for the viewfinders. So that could cut some costs, so I could afford to, you know, buy the more expensive lens. And no, I just ended up poisoning myself. Plus, the machine that I got really isn't great for that, and that's kind of terrible because I had hoped that it was. So there's lots of choices and things that you can make, but that was a time that was kind of like a rough spot. So the lenses were rough. Here's what I have done. I have ordered the correct lenses. The ones that I originally ordered in the first place. I got the first batch coming in the next couple weeks. That should make it before our very first ship time. Even if it doesn't, I have a number of those on stock, right around 55 of the original lenses. So I'm still trying to meet our July 28th ship date. And let's talk about that. So we had some blunders, you know, that kind of got me down, but that wasn't anything that stopped the train. You know, we keep going, even if it gets further. You know, we got to go over those over hill and dale, right? You just got to keep going. But I still feel like we'll be able to meet the window of July 28th for shipments to begin. And this is important. I would like to keep that date because it was something that was important to me. I felt like I do it. It's like a challenge to meet that goal. I don't want to meet that date just for principle. And that's important because if it means that I've got to shortcut something, that's not what I want to do. But I don't think that it means that. I don't feel like it does. I feel like we'll be able to meet that window within a few days of that shipping timetable in order to move forwards. And jumping ahead a little bit in the story, I actually have a meetup in August 4th. If you guys know about the Film Photography Project, it's a really great place. Been the OG, old godfathers of film for at least 12, 15 years, somewhere in there, promoting film and analog film and stuff like that. Well, they've invited me to be a guest speaker at their next meetup, their walking workshop in Findlay, Ohio, in the United States, on August 4th. And of course, I gladly accepted, and I'll go ahead and meet some of the crew of the Film Photography Project. It's going to be about 100, maybe 120 people there that are a part of the workshop. And if you're a part of the workshop, I would love to know. Please, if you're going to be there, email me ahead of time. It'd be important so I can become familiar with you, say hi, get to know you a little bit before we get there. That way, when we get to meet up for the first time, it'd be neat to actually have a little bit of commonality other than just a handshake. So if we can get to know each other a little bit early, that'd be great. So yeah, so that's coming up too, and so because of that, the shipping is kind of fuzzy. But I feel like if I can get it done before I ship, either before or after, I'm aiming for before, which would be great. And then you know, I kind of waxed amusingly about the great printer wars of May and June 2018, and you know, we have some pretty rough weather here on the East Coast sometimes, and Virginia Beach gets mixed up. Sometimes we get all 4 seasons in one day, and I've got a surge protector and a battery backup that keep my electronics in the office you know, good to go, up to snuff. And the pond behind my house had a lightning struck in it, and it just blasted all the electricity out. Fried my surge protector, screwed up a couple of the fuses in my, you know, my power backup. But I thought that the machines were fine. Turns out it fried the MOSFETs, the metal oxide semiconducting field effect transistor, which is part of the amperage for the power supply, and 2 of the machines. So they were acting funky and wonky. So I was having all these inconsistent prints after that. Although the tests looked like they were doing fine, it kind of fried them so that only when the printer would get into a long print and sometimes start drawing this power, it would go crazy. So anyways, I had to replace those. Kind of fun, right? So, and it took me a long time. I was really stuck in the office for a while. I didn't come out for days, my kids might tell you. They just didn't see me very much because I was working. And then that kind of talks about more of the little idiosyncrasies that you find out when you start making stuff. Like when I started printing, you know, I made those other demo units that produced real images, like the one that you see of my son back here and everything else. We've been taking real photos with NuBox, but it's been the prototype NuBox. The production NuBox has been a beast to get working just right. And I guess that's because you're like working on small components, multiple pieces, on hundreds of them, not just 10 or 20. And that was something, honestly, I didn't think I would be affected by. I thought that because we were using, you know, 3D printing, and I'd really honed down the design, that wouldn't be too much of an issue. I have found out that I've gone back and had to rework a lot of my designs. The first part was because I switched from using Trimble SketchUp to Fusion. That actually made it easier. Fusion 360 is easier for me. So importing all the models there didn't work exactly like I had wanted them to, so I had to go back and rebuild the models. But that was simple. It was nice to get back inside the designs and work on these things. However, at the same time, the printers were different, so that meant that I had to do a lot of calibration per part, per print, per machine in order to get them to print just right. And I'm still having some issues with some of the smaller components right now. The good part about that is I've always considered using small eyeglass fasteners like that go in your eyeglasses for the tiny things that need to be screwed in. I have some custom designed pieces that make things fit together what looks more neatly, and it's kind of a toss-up on which way I'll go right now. Right now the printers are going on a final round of fasteners because it's coming time where things have to go together. The boxes look great. I went ahead and did a couple of different designs from a flat box. I thought originally we might do some I'm kind of digressing. My point is the boxes have gone through several iterations, and you know, that I just didn't expect in the first place, and because of it we've got some really interesting designs that have moved forward. One of those things was actually trying to figure out how to get a pinhole cartridge for you guys that would work really well, and what I came up with actually was something completely different. Pinbox. Pinbox is really cool. You guys may have seen it. Pinbox was just released this month. We were only around $2,800, but 143% funded, which is great. And Pinbox is a really cool do-it-yourself pinhole camera. That came directly out of NuBox from my prototyping platform, kind of loosely fitted. But when you think of the idea of folding these cardboard pieces and putting them together to make a cartridge that I could test just to make sure that it would work, next thing I knew, Pinbox was something that came to mind. Especially at a time where we need some additional capital to come in. We've been making good sales. We've had okay revenues. I stopped selling NuBox directly and only have a couple of sales that take place each month over on my backer kit, which was a shame. I should have continued marketing NuBox. It would have just continued to grow. But I stopped that because I was overwhelmed with the production, and I didn't want to get so much bigger. You know, 5 or 10 different NuBoxes every week or every month is one thing, but 500, 1,000 more NuBoxes, that would have been overwhelming, especially right now. But Pinbox came out of it. And so since we've got those issues with the lenses and things, it's nice to see that there's some additional capital to come into the company while I'm kind of pushing it forwards. That means that some of the other projects we talked about working on with NuBox, like NuBox Instant, NuBox 35, those things have not happened yet. They are still designs. They are still, some of them even in a prototyping kind of phase, but they're just not here because NuBox is not here yet. So Pinbox is like the little brother that's kind of propping up NuBox in order to move forward to maintain right now. Now, I don't want to make that sound too scary for you right now. Some of you might go back and think, what is Rob saying? What I'm telling you is that we've been working over the past few months with this with no real new revenues. It's important for a company to have revenues, so Pinbox was something to help the company have revenues so that we can continue. And I don't mean just continue with NuBox, I mean just continue on. We need new interests, we need new developments and things like that to take place. We need new parts of the company to continue. I don't want this to be a one-off kind of thing. Luckily it's not. Pinbox has been picked up by Popular Photography. Oh my gosh, how crazy is that? That's awesome. And even Lomography Magazine is writing up an article about us, which is really great. So that's cool. And I hope to get Pinbox into some educational type of facilities later on this year. I think that's really great. So if you're out there, if you're an educator or a teacher, or if you're in a photography club and you think that Pinbox is something that you guys would like to have or offer as a course or a class or something, contact me, because we can get that moving to you very, very quickly. And that's what Pinbox was designed for. Finally, kind of rounding it up, my spirits and everything have been ups and downs, hills and valleys as you go through this process. It really is a life process. It really is something that you feel with your heart, and I've put a lot of time and effort and thought and heart and crying and tears and excitement into NuBox, and I'm happy to be bringing it to you guys. Oh, and by the way, for somehow we designed the boxes, the retail packaging, but no one ordered the retail packaging. No one from the design team. I thought, not that there's it's really just me, right? So even though Andre helped with our original announcements, and he's our brand ambassador now, so Andre's moved on to sitting still and working. George designed everything and then went on. He's an architect, so he's designing houses. So yeah, so it's just really me putting these things and producing these things and moving them forward. So when I thought about that yesterday, I was like, oh my God. I was looking for my boxes. I was going to package some new boxes up, and I was like, you know, just to fit them and get them sit to kind of look and take some product shots. And I was like, where are the boxes? Where? Oh my goodness, things just get funny that way. So if you can find some humor in this like I can, I hope you do. Let me know down in the comments below. Man, it has been a wild ride. Guys, you know me. I'm Rob with, of course, Ham Camera. You can find me over on Instagram at RobHamPhoto or at The Box Is Back, or even find out some of the work. And don't even get me started on weddings. Had plenty of weddings going on this year already, so every weekend it's a wedding. And that's great, but, you know, it's every weekend it's a wedding. So we will continue. Anyways, that's just a nice little update for you guys. We're about twice as long as usual. I hope you forgive me. I want to thank you for watching and remind you I'll catch you on the flip side.